Many people will know about the conflict with the Yazidis and the terrible abuse of Yazidi girls and women. Some Yazidi girls are still in captivity. And the term ISIS, it's almost as if people have compartmentalized, well, there's ISIS here and there's the Yazidis, as if that's really the main conflict and the only conflict. And it's really random and it's rare. You sort of, I think in the Western mindset, a lot of people think that it's this rare phenomena that of extremists that came in and have done this for a percentage of time and it's all dealt with. But let's talk a bit about the Yazidis and then maybe go to other countries. Can you share what you know? Because I know that you have looked into this in some detail and have highlighted the plight of the Yazidi girls and women over time.
Yes, I was fortunate to speak with many of them over the years as a journalist. The boys were killed, men and boys from a certain age. Women and children were taken captive. Women were raped and sold. Sometimes women were given away as a gift. 2,600 of these women approximately are still missing.
Wow.
Sometimes girls were abducted when they were 8 and
Yeah.
weren't raped immediately, but after a few years, so when they were 10 or 11. Girls are sold to many men, so they're here a few months and then they're sold to another man and then to another man. So it's very traumatizing, and also, being brought to all sorts of countries as well. This is what I also argued when I was at the UN back in 2023, is how
You were invited by the UN to
yeah,
present a paper.
yes, as a journalist, to give a journalist perspective on the situation. And what was I found really interesting is how come we never prosecute the. So there is ISIS, right?
Mhm.
And we say they sexually enslave women, but who were they selling them to?
Yeah,
That's a good
right.
question.
Not just to fellow ISIS fighters.
No.
Mhm.
And they were selling them to men from Turkey, to men from Saudi Arabia, from Palestine. I've even had stories from Kazakhstan. There's a lot of these things going on. And how come we never have held these countries, whose inhabitants bought women and girls from ISIS? That is human trafficking, that's forbidden by international law. How come we never put pressure on these countries to prosecute these men, to go after them and prosecute them legally? That's very interesting. The fact that the ISIS opened these slave markets and the Muslim world immediately came to buy women.
Interesting. Yeah. I think you will have had access to the Dabliq magazines that ISIS produced. We have them, and I was reading through them and was struck by not only how they would quote from Islamic law or quote the Quran often for what they did, and they would show images of what they did and how it would align with, say, the life of Muhammad, or how it would align with a Quranic verse or an Islamic law. And when it came to the enslavement of women and girls and then the selling of them as really sexual captives, they again, there was Quran verses, but it was just the very clear framework in which they had to work, because they were working within an Islamic law framework. There were certain laws, but just the categorization of girls and women and what made them more expensive, what made them cheaper, and so on. But just how it was absolutely accepted, and yet it can be found in the life and the traditions that we see in Islam, both Shia and Sunni, of Muhammad and his men, and some of the conversations that Muhammad had with his men over time. And yet in the media, you don't see that side of things on the whole. People know there was, with ISIS, Dabliq magazines, but people don't realize that they were quoting Quran, that they were making it religious as well as political, because it is a religious political movement, religion. But they were showing the religious side of things, and that's something that media is very afraid to touch upon. In the testimonies of the Yazidi girls that you talked with, did they, or girls from other countries and other situations, which we'll touch upon, have they shared a religious connection, not just the political, but the religious connection?
Yes, girls do say that, first of all, they were called devil worshippers.
That already puts them in a category that
Yes,
abuse can happen, is allowed to happen.
yes. But what girls also say is that, so in Islam, you have people of the book, which is Jews and Christians. By the way, the Hanafi school is the only one that recognizes the Hindus also as a people of the book.
Interesting.
So Hindus from India, Pakistan, that region.
Yeah.
And so they cannot marry a Yazidi girl because she's not a people of the book. She's not part of that group. So girls do say that they were forced to convert and then married off to a jihadist or whoever they were selling her to. So that's a very religious connection, you know, not just from the Quran, but also from Sharia, both. Yazidi girls also who did not convert say that, that I remember one young man, before he would rape a girl, he would pray and he would tell her that he was allowed to do this, that his God allowed him to do that. And what people have forgotten, but let's not forget that Mr. al-Baghdadi actually he had a PhD in Islamic theology. The leader of ISIS.
Yeah.
So saying that it has nothing to do with religion is really ridiculous.
Talk later on about the verses in the Quran that would align with this.
Yes.
Yes.
Certainly, they were saying these things. They were connecting it. The ISIS jihadists. What I also think that we need to mention is that the world seems to have forgotten that ISIS not only took Yazidi girls, but also Christian girls.
Yes.
And there's still a few hundreds of them missing too.
Specifically Christian girls.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So that is important not to forget as well. And right now the situation is that there's still trafficking women. So just a year ago, just to give you an idea, they were caught when they were trying to traffic a Yazidi girl within Turkey. Yeah. And where she had been hid by Muslims, and then they were trafficking her. Palestinian men, by the way, are also among those who, in I think the top 5 or something, of the men who bought Yazidi girls.
Wow.
And there's Yazidi girls. One came in the news when she managed to escape during the current war that is going on between Israel and Gaza, but there's still other Yazidi women probably there. Yes.